Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing very well. I feel like it's the first official off-season show because, yes, we broke down the ending of the World Series last episode, but I don't know. This feels like it's truly off-season, like for real this time.
Yes, I mean, we don't have any baseball, we don't have any games to talk about.
Yes.
It's just been kind of dark and dreary and without baseball. But, here we are trying to lighten things up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about awards today. But before that, we'll get into some of the managerial changes that we never highlighted during the postseason because there was, more important stuff going on, if we're honest. So we'll go over that. And, a big contract was already signed and big executive change occurring with the World Series champions, which is kind of hilarious. I guess we'll start off with the managerial changes. There's four teams will have fully new managers in 2023. We'll start with the Kansas City Royals, who fired Mike Matheny. We kind of knew he was never really the long-term goal of the team. They parted ways with him, hired this guy, Matt Quatraro.
Who's a upstate New York baby.
Yeah, he grew up like 10 minutes away from where you
Correct.
live. Yeah. They hired Matt Quatraro. What have you read up on Mr. Quatraro?
Not much other than Bethlehem Central. that's
all you really need
kind
to
of where
know.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic hire. I don't even know if he has baseball experience.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He was I believe, bench coach of the Rays.
Yeah.
Prior, which is probably a good sign.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think we've ever seen anyone come from the Kevin Cash coaching tree.
Right.
Not that I can think of, at least, because you see plenty of, like Alex Cora came from the Astros, the AJ Hinch coaching tree. Joe Espada was on the market for a while and still didn't get hired. But, Astros, coaches are pretty popular on the market usually. Haven't seen a lot for the Rays, and there's a lot of talk about how they're just a good, well-run baseball club. So I'm very interested to see this. Yeah,
and you see a lot of Rays from the executive tree being picked off.
Bloom, Andrew Friedman.
Yeah, so you'll see that, but we haven't really seen the Kevin Cash coaching tree quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Cash, he's coming off back-to-back Manager of the Year.
Yes.
Wins, which it's a weird award.
I mean, to be fair, back-to-back is pretty impressive. They usually don't do that.
It's very impressive, and he definitely earned at least one of them. There's a reason why the Rays, even with a bottom five budget, are able to get to the playoffs 4 years in a row now, which is pretty absurd to think about. So Quatraro is coming off, literally right under Kevin Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Probably provided a lot, and we'll see where he goes with the Royals, who the Royals are definitely up and coming, and it feels like they're kind of their wave of prospects is starting to come to the big leagues, and they're looking for a new leader to lead them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of I'd say there's been a lot of excitement with the Royals over the last year. I know that, last season on paper did not go the way it was supposed to, but I think the one thing that Royals fans could really hang their heads high on with last season is that they kind of have an identity now. There's some sort of expectation with Kansas City going into next season where we think we might know who some of their guys are. Brady Singer had a really nice breakout year, especially in the second half. MJ Melendez looks interesting. Vinny Pasquantino looks interesting. Nick Prado. They have some guys who could establish themselves as the future core of the Kansas City Royals, and I think now, I think they picked the right time to fire Mike Matheny because now they have an identity and they can get a manager that fits that identity better. And Matt Quatraro appears to be that guy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some names. Brady Singer had his best career year. He had a 1.27 ERA plus. His highest ERA plus and highest amount of innings in a season with 153 and a third. His walk rate went down tremendously. So he's a guy that's definitely up and coming. He's only 26 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny Pasquantino, he looks. This is a really interesting guy to look at. A 135 OPS plus in 298 plate appearances last year. One of the lowest strikeout rates you'll see. One of the higher barrel rates and exit velocities you'll see.
Yeah.
Which is a great recipe for offensive success. Nick Prado was a top 5 organizational prospect. He came up, and not to mention, Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, we didn't even get into him.
Who was the number 1 prospect in baseball this coming into this year, and he might have had a 2020 season already in his rookie year. He had 20 home runs, 30 stolen bases.
Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, I think the ceiling, only goes up from here with him. That was very much, it was his rookie year, his first time playing in the league, and obviously he's not a finalist for Rookie of the Year like some of his other counterparts that were big names going into the season, like Adley Rutschman, Julio Rodriguez, but Bobby Witt Jr. is probably going to have that breakout year at some point, and
Absolutely.
It's probably going to be under Matt Quatraro.
Yeah, it was his age 22 season. You can't expect everyone to be Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., or Julio Rodriguez.
And they didn't even really need him to be.
No.
Let's just say he had a Julio season, put up a 5-6 win season. What does that get the Royals that they didn't already get?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So yeah, I think we were a show when they initially hired Mike Matheny. It was right after the 2019 season, and we don't have any
Archives
archive of it because it was maybe our 5th episode we had done.
The first 30, I believe, do not exist.
Yeah, first 29 are actually, if you want to dig deep and go on my Twitter, you can find the periscopes, which I don't know if you can even
You didn't see anymore. They're so old.
Yeah, but if you want to dive back to my Twitter in 29, winter 2019,
pre-pandemic 2020.
Yes, pre-pandemic 2020, and
which was a fake time.
Late 2019. If you want to do that, go ahead. But yeah, back to Mike Matheny. We kind of saw it for what it was, and we were the Royals aren't going. Speaking in 2019 terms, Royals obviously aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So they just kind of have this placeholder guy, and once they kind of form an identity and have some younger guys come up, they'll get their guy. And I think Matt Quatraro, for right now, seems to be their guy, as they have a bunch of guys 25 and younger coming through the system and doing pretty well. And should be interesting. And that's a division where you can kind of rise up a little quicker than most.
You definitely can. I think we're going to have that expectation for a lot of teams going into next year. The Tigers obviously took a big step back in 2022, but you do remember that they were sort of a contender for a little bit in 2021. Obviously 2022 didn't go their way. They had a historically bad offense, but it feels like they can't replicate that.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to do.
And with the Royals, they're a very young team, but guess who won the AL Central this past year?
Exactly.
It was the youngest team in baseball. Not saying that I think they're going to win the AL Central next year, but I think it's
not as far-fetched as many might think.
Yeah, and I think it's a possibility in the next few years, with the amount of talent they have just starting their big league careers. So yeah, Matt Quatraro. Any more thoughts on Quatraro's hiring?
Not too much really. I hope this one works out for Kansas City.
So yeah, next on the list, staying in the AL Central, they kind of parted ways with Tony La Russa because Tony La Russa stepped down because of health reasons.
Yes.
They hired Pedro Grifol.
Chicago White Sox, yes.
The White Sox did, and he used to be with Kansas City. Kind of an interesting position. I read up on him. Apparently, he was the catching quality control coach before Ned Yost retired, which is funny because we've talked about how Salvador Perez and MJ Melendez are some of the worst framers at the catcher position. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a real correlation thing, but the Whites. I mean, it's a younger guy, and we'll see how it goes for the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean the Royals school of framing is not. It's like it's not good.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's like getting a PhD from a daycare center.
Yeah, very true. Very true. With the White Sox, I think either way it's probably going to work out because I think with the talent the White Sox have and the talent that the rest of the division doesn't have.
You ever just laugh at the Nationals OAA from last year?
Was it -50?
-51. The second worst was -33.
Wow.
Sorry, that was very off topic, but I'm just looking at that. So I'm looking at framing stats.
But with the White Sox, I think it's probably a good move because with the amount of talent they have and the amount of talent the rest of the division mostly lacks, I think you just need a guy in charge that's not going to mess things up. And he's a bit of a younger guy. He's worked with the Royals. Who knows? He could mess things up, but I feel like he's less due to mess things up than Tony La Russa did.
I mean, the bar is incredibly low there. I don't even think that's a fair comparison because, I mean, when Tony La Russa was hired, it felt like if things went better than expectations, it was a miracle. And, I mean, in 2021, they were gifted a division because no other team in that division showed up. And that year they didn't show up in 2022.
Yep.
And, I mean, even the 2021 year, they got bounced out of the postseason pretty quickly by a superior team.
Yep. Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, they won one playoff game with 2 huge years of that core, and it really sucks because Jose Abreu is probably leaving this year in free agency, and I know that he probably won't get that much attention because he is in his upper 30s, but he had a 133 OPS plus last year. He's going to be a tough guy to replace in that lineup.
Yeah. The White Sox core, we're not excited about it as we were pre-2021, pre-2020.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anderson, I think he might have had an option picked up, so I think he's there for another year, but then as a free agent. Lucas Giolito's heading into his contract year. Lance Lynn, he's not getting any younger. And yeah, I mean, Dylan Cease is a very bright star there, and we'll get into him later. But yeah, with Grifol, I'm gonna have to learn how to pronounce that name. It's just you kind of have to do what Tony La Russa was unable to do. It's quite simple.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Just steer this core and do what they're expected to do. And, they've had a lot of injury trouble over the last 2 years as well.
That's very true.
Eloy hasn't been healthy consistently. Luis Robert hasn't been healthy consistently, and I think it's definitely torn into his quality of play. I'd say he was a pretty legit MVP candidate going into 2022. That did not materialize, mainly due to him not being on the field very much.
Yep.
I mean, they had Leori Garcia consistently starting games for them both years. That's how you know.
Yeah.
They weren't able to keep guys. Yasmani Grandal this year vastly underperformed, but also couldn't stay healthy.
Same with Yohan Moncada.
Yohan Moncada was injured throughout the year. Yeah, I mean, A.J. Pollock did not perform to expectation.
Tim Anderson was great, and then he got injured.
Tim Anderson was great, and he got injured. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of outstanding things that happened with the White Sox that you can't even really blame La Russa for. I mean, like, they had to have Johnny Cueto pitch 158 innings for them at age 36. And to his credit, he did very well, a 3.35 ERA.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of a sign of a bad situation.
Right. That was he was not in the equation before the season started, really.
He was not in anyone's equation. He was a free agent.
Yeah, exactly.
All 30 teams looked at him on opening day and said, no, actually, we're good.
Yep.
And then the White Sox, because of so many injuries, were like, all right, fine, we'll take him. God. He'll nearly qualify for the ERA title and put up a 3.35 ERA, all right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean,
Lance Lynn wasn't healthy this year, and he didn't perform very well, as was Lucas Giolito as well.
Yeah, Dallas Keuchel just disappeared.
Yeah. What a disaster that was for the Diamondbacks, Rangers, and White Sox.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's a fair point that a lot of that was not in La Russa's control, and stuff like that won't be in Grifol's control.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't imagine that much injury trouble happens again. That was some bad luck.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Because then it's a bigger issue.
Right.
Like, then it's training team, conditioning team. Like, something has got to change if that happens again.
Exactly. But yeah, anything more on Pedro Grifol?
No, I mean, I think it's an exciting hire for the White Sox. They obviously took a much-needed change in direction. I mean, I don't know if we can consider it Reinsdorf admitting his mistake, because I feel like he's gonna use the health issues as a cop out and be like, oh, we couldn't have him because he wasn't healthy. And also, they mutually agreed to split ways. Yeah. We should never forget that Jerry Reinsdorf set this team up for failure for 2 years.
That's true.
In the heart of their core.
Absolutely. Like, they were set up so well, and just couldn't execute because a lot because of poor management. But the next managerial hire to get into, I don't think there's really much time we can spend on this. But Skip Schumaker
On the Marlins
gets hired by the Miami Marlins.
I don't know. I kind of like it. I mean, the Marlins have had an absolutely dreadful offense over the last couple of years to not go along very well with the fantastic pitching that they've had. They're probably going to have the Cy Young winner this year. They had a decent bullpen overall, as they did in 2021. I'm going to be honest. Ken Mang had a really tough offseason last year.
Yeah, with results, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, hold on, because her big additions were Jacob Stallings,
yep,
and Javisel Garcia and Jorge Soler, and all three of those were huge flops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm giving up on Kim Ang. It's one bad season, and it's also, I mean, it's hard to blame her for Jacob Stallings having a 584 OPS. You have to expect better from that.
Yeah.
At some point you do have to hold the players accountable, and I think it's fair to do that here. But also, I mean, that is a really tough offseason because Avisail Garcia had a 582 OPS. Jorge Soler only played 72 games and had a 695 OPS. He never really got it going. Jazz Chisholm played 60 games and was very good in those games, but like we said, it wasn't able to stay on the field. Their highest position player in B-War was Miguel Rojas, who had a 72 OPS plus in 507 plate appearances because of his defense.
Yeah.
It's a yikes. Their offense was so... I watched a lot of their games, mostly because of Sandy. Their offense was brutal to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, just... Now I'm wondering what Alcantara's record was, because I feel like it couldn't have been that
check.
great.
14-9.
Yeah,
not that great for a 228 ERA and 228 and 2/3 innings too.
Yeah,
when you're going that deep into games and you're not winning, that's an offensive issue. No
you're
doubt.
averaging like 7 innings a start.
Yeah,
and you can only win. You can't win half of your games despite a 170 ERA plus.
32 games started, 14 wins.
Yeah. not great. So yeah,
Pablo Lopez went 10-10. Trevor Rogers, I know that he didn't have a good season, ERA wise, but I mean, a 4-11.
mm,
Well, that's kind of tough.
yeah, the Marlins offense, it's historically been pretty bad. And yeah, I mean, who knows if a managerial change is what they need to fix it. Maybe it's a
They also need
change of reinforcements.
They also need to develop. Like, they really don't. I mean, if you look at all of their successful players right now, none of them were drafted by the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm was traded over from the Diamondbacks. Pablo Lopez was traded over from the Yankees. Sandy Alcantara was traded over from the Cardinals. Let me see. I think Miguel Rojas is signed. Cool. He has a career 85 OPS. Actually, no, he was on the Dodgers originally. Yeah, they have not drafted well historically.
Yeah, I mean,
that's something that needs to be fixed, no doubt.
Yeah, and whoever does well is usually
and even the international signings too.
Yeah, I mean, to their credit, I think Edward Cabrera might be.
But we've seen it in 70 innings.
Yeah,
we can't really. There's no verdict on him.
Exactly. So we'll see how those go.
And even then, he had a FIP that was a run and a half higher than his ERA last year.
Yeah. Right.
Because of the home runs and the high walk rate. But, I mean, all this leads back to our original point of manager. Skip Schumaker is, it's definitely a change that they needed to make. I think Don Mattingly was someone they had to move on from, like, a long time ago.
Yeah.
He was there, since 2016?
Yeah, at least.
At least, because he was with the Dodgers in 15, wasn't he?
20. Yeah, so probably 2016 or 17.
He definitely was there in 16.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was since then, and
yep.
I mean, obviously, some things were not in his control. A large piece of their core around the start of his tenure. Jose Fernandez, that whole thing happened, and that really changed the course of the franchise.
Yes.
Yeah. They were a piece or two away up until that point.
Yeah.
And that happened, but they really haven't been able to recover from that since.
Yeah.
That was probably the best guy that franchise has ever drafted.
True. Yeah. That or Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, him too.
But yeah, I mean, after that happened, within a couple years, they traded Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, JT Realmuto.
Yeah, and really the only thing that they've gotten out of that entire fire sale was Sandy Alcantara, which, to be fair, he's been fantastic, like beyond great.
Yeah.
But that's only one guy, and he pitches every fifth day, and your problem isn't pitching.
Yeah, very true.
One thing that was very cool, Skip Schumaker, after Sandy had thrown a complete game against the Cardinals, tweeted like, "Wow, Sandy was electric tonight. I'd love to manage a guy like that."
Yeah, that was a
very wholesome
good moment. Yep. Funny that it worked out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like he went back in time and like made that tweet and then came back,
got hired.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's exciting to see the Marlins making some sort of not front office, but higher up changes, I guess.
Yeah.
They have been doing it for the last couple of years with Kamang becoming the GM and ownership changes and all of this. So, I mean, the 2023 Marlins, I think this is really that window of, oh my gosh, their pitching starts, if it wasn't already last year.
Right.
They're going to need to get some offense to go with it.
Yep, no doubt.
And they got a manager that'll hopefully take them to the promised land.
Yep. So yeah, Schumaker, a new era starts in Miami. The last managerial hire we'll get into, probably the biggest one, the Rangers hired Bruce Bochy.
Yes, they did. A guy who beat them in the World Series.
Yep, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 3-time World Series champion with the Giants, had some success with the Padres as well, and retired and then is unretired.
Yep.
He's back. I think we talked about it off air. He's not someone that you go to when you want a long-term plan.
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the Rangers are kind of going all in, and there's already some free agent rumors going on with Texas as well. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers have been a very polarizing franchise for the last year. Last offseason they went out and got 2 major infield stars. They got a solid, I don't want to say ace, but they got a solid starter in John Gray on a pretty decent deal. I think the next step is, keep building that core and then try to develop guys like Josh Jung, maybe Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter for the near future. Because, like we mentioned, Bruce Bochy is not a guy that you go out and get for a long-term plan. Like, this is hey, we want you to manage this team that we think can win right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to, I think this hire is going to propel them into a big offseason. They've already been linked to Jacob deGrom. I think a lot of predictions are going to have him going there, and it makes a lot of sense. Texas, I think they also just need, obviously Corey Seager and Marcus Semien are definitely big names, and I think both of them had pretty solid seasons. And there's reason to believe that both of them can continue to go up in production because of the shift going away. But, it feels like they still need that guy, and Jacob deGrom could be that guy for them.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely regarding their starting pitching because, we haven't seen...
Yeah, I mean, who'd they have starting last year?
Martin Perez was like the
Martin Perez was
the most pleasant of surprises.
Yeah, at age 31.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think they have some guys that they can build off of. Like Dane Dunning was interesting, but I don't really know if he has that high of a ceiling. I think he's solid as a ground ball option. If they can supply him with enough defense, count me in. But I mean, what's the Rangers' outs above average right now? For infield, at least. Is there anything outstanding?
Semien bumps them up. Seager's kind of average. I don't know what Nate Lowe's
or third base in general. The Rangers, as a team last year, had -8 infield outs above average.
So I mean, it's not awful. But it's not good.
It's 22nd in the league.
Yeah. Right. I'm trying to look for their farm system rank.
I feel like it's mid.
Yeah, it's kind of mid. Even after they had some big trades last year.
I mean, even then, like Kumar Rocker, like a lot would say, like that was a reach at 3.
Well, they're not the bottom. Sorry, folks. I'm looking here.
Just control
sixth.
F. Oh, they're 6th.
6th.
Yeah. Josh Jung, Jack Leiter, Kumar Rocker. Who else?
Jack Leiter, Evan Carter, Owen White, Justin.
Oh yeah, Owen White.
Yeah, I can't act like I know who these people are.
I do know the name Owen White.
Yeah, I mean he's a computer generated guy. Sorry, I mean I know you're probably an extremely talented guy who probably like lives at 98 miles per hour or something. But yeah, Rangers have the 6th best. This is mid-season 2022. I don't think it's really changed much. They have the 6th best team farm system according to MLB.com, and it's been improving because 2020 mid-season it was 24, 2021 preseason it was 21, and then it's gone to 11 to 9 to 6. So that's improving. So for some reason that kind of pulls me away from thinking the Rangers should go all in for like the next 1, 2, 3 years. I think the Rangers have kind of been confusing me over the past few years. If I'm honest, I think the Marcus Semien signing kind of confused me as well. I mean, that the guy was going into his age 32 season.
Yeah, and you signed him for what, like 8-9 years?
They signed him for 7 years.
Yeah.
Corey
Seager made a little more sense.
And to be fair, Semien had a very good year this year. He had a 25-25 season along with spectacular defense at second base, but I don't see that happening when Josh Jung is doing great and Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker are doing great.
Mm-hmm.
And then so with a move like signing with like getting Bruce Bochy and even potentially getting Jacob deGrom, like I think they're jumping the gun a little bit. they won 68 games last year, and a lot of it was one-run games. And I looked it up. If they were 500 in one-run games, they'd still be 78 and 84. Nothing that's great,
but something to build off of at least.
Something to build off of, but also when looking at the division, I mean, I don't think even a strong offense gets them by the Seattle Mariners or Houston Astros. So, I mean, at best, if they have a great offseason, they could be like a 5th, 6th seed.
Okay, but what did the 6th seed just do in the National League, though?
True, but the Phillies were... My counter to that is look at what the 6th seed in the AL did.
Fair enough. But also, I think the Rangers are closer to the Phillies than they are the Rays.
Maybe.
I think if they build enough in the offseason, they will be. Let's put it that way.
And
let's say they go out and get Jacob deGrom, they get a bat, they get a bullpen arm, whatever. They restock. They already have guys like Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Maybe you get a breakout year from Josh Jung. I think they're closer to the Phillies than they are the Rays.
Potentially. I mean, they do have a budget, which the Rays don't, which would allow them to get a big bat that the Rays don't have, or even a big starter, or a big veteran starter that the Rays don't have. But I feel like a more long-term guy would have been appropriate, because I don't know if they're going to succeed in the next 1 or 2 years, but I feel like I'm pretty confident they'll succeed in 3-4 years.
That is pretty fair. I mean, I don't know. I think just from a front office perspective, you built a whole new stadium for your fans a couple of years ago when your old stadium was only 20, 30 years old.
Right.
You want to get the place packed. The team hasn't been to the playoffs since 2016. I don't think they've had a winning record since then. I think they really are just pushing the win now mentality for a lot of various reasons that have to do with, hey, we want people here because we've invested a lot in this city in the last couple of years, and now we want to give that to give back for the on-field product.
Yeah, from a business side, it does make sense. I get that they have a new stadium and they weren't even able to fill it in the first year because of COVID.
Exactly.
First in attendance in 2021. That's my favorite thing ever. And they lost 102 games. They were first in attendance. But yeah, but I think from a purely baseball perspective, I think they're jumping the gun a little bit. It's why I didn't love the Marcus Semien signing, but I like the Seager signing.
I don't know. I think it is cool to see them go out and try at the very least. No doubt.
It's way better.
It's so much cooler than just the endless narratives of hey, look at this, look how good this team is when they don't spend. Hey, look at how they've built this team and blah blah blah. It's no, go out and spend your money.
It's way better than the Reds. We had our window in 2020.
Yep, that too.
And now we're gonna do a fire sale.
Yeah.
That it is much better than that. I will agree. But yeah, from a baseball perspective, it's a little bit jumping the gun. However, if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm mostly
digging
satisfied.
Yeah. I'm digging it.
If I'm a Rangers fan, I'm excited to watch this 2023 team.
I will never knock a front office for making a move that where it clearly shows you that they're committed to winning.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be a stupid move, but I'll be like, hey, you know what? I'll give it to you because you clearly want to win with this move. And that's how I think with Bruce Bochy. I think you can make a case that, hey, maybe they're jumping the gun with these free agent signings and the way they're operating right now because they might not be ready yet. But you know what? They're trying, and good for them for that. And
I may disagree with the move now, but if they fire him after 1 or 2 years or mutually part ways or whatever, I don't think it sets them back too much. It's they could have had this guy and built something. It's not a Tony La Russa situation really.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like we've been hyping up the Rangers farm for so long, and it's they're finally here, and who's the guy that they're gonna lead with, and it's Tony La Russa.
Yeah, no.
It's not one of those situations.
Yeah, I think with hiring Bochy and signing all these big free agents already with Seager and Semien and potentially with DeGrom and another big bat as you mentioned, I think that's great. I don't want to be cynical, but let's just hope that if it fails after a couple years, they don't have some sort of fire sale because like I don't know. I feel like we've seen that before with certain teams.
I don't think anyone's taking on the Seager or Simeon contracts.
True.
Maybe Seager if they, if it's like a Nolan Arenado situation, but like I think only the Rockies would ever do that. The Rockies are paying Nolan Arenado $16 million next year.
Right, yeah.
It is so funny that he opted into that deal because I bet the Rockies were like they're building their entire offseason around the premise that they have that money cleared up.
Yeah.
Because objectively, he probably could have gotten more coming off the season that he just had.
Right.
But like I don't know. I don't understand why there was so much hype around his opt out because he's said publicly like 5,000 times that he's not opting out and he doesn't want to like have to wonder what the rest of his career is going to look like.
Yeah.
Like that's why he signed the deal with the Rockies so quickly is because he wants to be like, all right, I got the rest of my career figured out right here. We're gonna do it. Of course, it didn't work out like that, and within a year, he was in trade rumors, and there was a rift between him and the front office, and the Cardinals trade happens, and he's like, all right, I'm a Cardinal for life. This is how it's going to be for the rest of my career. Like I want to just settle somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's no like I don't know. I don't know why people are surprised he opted in.
Yeah. No. Like he had a. What, like 200? It was a $200-something million contract.
Yeah.
What it is, even if you're a great player,
even if you can get more, it's like you have generational wealth coming your way regardless.
It's like why go through the stress again?
Yeah, and clearly it's such a priority for you to know what the rest of your career looks like now, which is fine. So yeah, opt in, absolutely. Like you're still getting $200 million.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
a ridiculous amount of money.
But yeah, I guess those are the managerial changes. Going over again, Bruce Bochy, Skip Schumaker, Pedro Grifol, and Mike Quatraro. All interesting in their own right. And I think Rangers should be like with a move like that. It kind of signals, hey, there's more coming.
Mm-hmm.
So we shall see. We'll be right here to talk about it.
Yes, we will.
All right, and already been some big off-season action. Not with a guy going to another team, but the Mets.
Well, G-Man Choi, of course.
Well, yeah, and of course
Dude,
Colby Allard.
I don't know if going back to the Braves. I don't know if you saw this, but G-Man Choi put out like an Instagram post being like, "Thank you, Rays Nation," whatever, and he said like, "I wanted to retire in Tampa Bay." Like he just flat out said that in his Instagram post.
Aw.
Which makes me very sad. But it's also like, I don't know, how often do you see someone publicly admitting as they were traded, I wanted to spend the rest of my career here? We heard it from Mookie Betts that he thought he was going to spend the rest of his career in Boston, but we heard it months after the trade.
True.
Like, G-Man Choi said this as he was being traded. Like, he hadn't even started talking about how he was excited to be in Pittsburgh, and he was like, I wanted to be a Ray for life, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I guess you can do that when you don't have like a whole press conference planned for you.
You definitely could.
Yeah.
And also when you're just a fan favorite somewhere.
Yeah. And it's like Pirates fans are like, we know you didn't want to be here.
Yeah. It's like I guess you could say it with Christian Pache. When he got traded.
Yeah.
His tweet literally started with, I am heartbroken. I have just learned that I've been traded to the Ace.
I get it.
It's funny because the actual tweet was, I was traded from the Braves, but it was just so funny seeing him tweet, I am heartbroken. I have learned that I've been traded to the A's. Like, if you just ended it there, it's the funniest and most accurate tweet, and it's what he was really thinking.
True. I just have to, like, I just went from, I could have been paid. Well, he wasn't going to get paid. Let's be honest. But like,
but he was 3 good months away from a lifetime contract.
From like a 12-year, $50 million contract.
Yeah.
He could have been with a winning organization that was always going to be a World Series contender. But now he's got to pay for soda.
And not only that, but he's with the same group of guys for the rest of his career. Like he's gonna form some amazing friendships, and he's got a 34 OPS plus and a team that might be going to Las Vegas, might be staying in Oakland, might be getting the Howard Terminal.
Yeah, who knows? Bring him back to Montreal. They loved it. They loved baseball in Montreal. That's why they left.
They had like top attendance every single year.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be cool for like the first few weeks, and then people will keep not showing up.
In the Olympic Stadium, a perfectly modern baseball place.
Remember that
The
2018 spring training game where a bunch of people showed up
against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
When it was cool because Vlad Jr. like he was the big prospect at the time, and he was also like the son of the guy who was like the big Expos man.
Yeah.
And he hit the walk-off home run in the 1-0 game.
And the crowd went crazy.
So we need to bring baseball back to Montreal and have them
Permanently.
host 81 games a year.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to roast that stuff, but what were we saying? Yeah, Edwin. Some
Anyway, Edwin Diaz.
in-house things going on with the Mets. The Mets signed the best reliever in baseball, at least last year, Edwin Diaz, to a 5-year, $102 million deal. The biggest contract to a reliever ever. First time a reliever is getting a $100 million contract, I believe. So what are we thinking about it?
I mean, if anyone was ever going to get a $100 million contract as a reliever, this is the right person and right time.
Yes.
I mean, he had a 0.9 FIP last year.
Yeah.
That's like not allowed, actually. Like that's illegal. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah.
But they actually don't let you do that.
It will suck that he has to serve that 2-month suspension.
Yeah, for being so good.
For that 0.9 FIP.
Yeah. Over his last 34 appearances of the season, he had an 0.52 ERA and an 0.14 FIP.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's so ridiculous. And actually, I could probably find a better sample. Over his, let's see. Oh, yeah, there it is. Over his last 37 appearances, on minus 0.2 FIP. A minus 0.02 FIP, sorry.
Yeah. So he was supposed to allow negative runs.
Over his last 40 appearances, minus 0.3. Minus
0.03?
Yeah, minus 0.03 FIP with a 0.65 ERA.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like we've seen historic seasons. Craig Kimbrell had a .78 FIP and a 101 ERA in 2012, but he was still under like arbitration or something.
Yeah, I mean he was
not close to
Edwin Diaz did that in a contract year.
Yeah.
It's like what was that, like that tweet about like Edwin Diaz's contract versus Emmanuel Clase's.
Yeah.
It was how the Guardians like got the just as good player for a much cheaper price.
Yeah, I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, it's crazy that you can just buy out a player's arbitration years and only have to pay them like $20 million.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, Acuna's deal still was kind of cheap, but like...
But that was also far beyond arbitration. Like, that was an 8-year deal. Emmanuel Clase's was quite literally 5 years after his first year in the big leagues.
Yep.
Like, it went, like, he's still going to be a free agent the same year, actually.
Yes. Yeah, very funny how people pick that out. And it's like, if you ever sense that something's weird, maybe look into it a little bit. But yeah, Edwin Diaz gets $102 million. Was the previous high for a reliever or oldest Chapman, like 5 years, $80 million?
Probably.
I think it was.
I can't think of a contract that has since been signed. Liam Hendricks didn't break that.
No. I think, and so I looked at some numbers, and funnily enough, I kind of judge players like how they are now based on like their past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Diaz, in his last 2 years, has a 1.70 FIP, fantastic, and Chapman in the 2 years leading up to his contract had a 1.70 FIP, exactly. So I think it makes sense that he's breaking that record again, and I think it should be worthwhile, especially like Diaz is only, I think, 29, or at least going into his age 29 season.
Right.
So like 5-year deal.
Yeah, he's going to his age 29 season.
That takes him into age 33, and relievers age definitely a lot differently than like a center fielder.
Very much so.
So I mean, he's still.
They also can be like wild cards with it too, though.
100%, yeah. Like I can name a billion relievers that just were eventually completely irrelevant in baseball lore. Like
Jim Johnson.
Jose Valverde, who went 49 for
Yeah,
49
dude, he had
save opportunities.
I mean, kind of Brad Lidge.
John Axford.
John
Axford had like 44 saves one year. Like, but I think, obviously.
Amir Garrett.
Yeah, but none of them were having FIPS below 1. Like, there's a very special class of relievers who have been able to do that, and that's like, Diaz, Chapman, Kimbrel.
Brad Lidge had a very fun career to look at. 2008 he goes 48 for 48 in save opportunities, including postseason. Closes out a 1-run game to win the World Series. The next year he comes back, pitches 58 and 2/3 innings with a 7.21 ERA. Then he comes back to the Phillies the next year with a 2.96 in 45 innings pitched, a 1.40 ERA in 19 innings pitched. Goes to Washington at age 35, 9 1/3 innings pitched, a 9.64 ERA. All right, peace out. I'm done with baseball.
Yeah, quite the ups and downs of relievers.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Diaz has had some ups and downs, but currently on the biggest upswing of his professional career. And came at the right time. Mets are going to be paying $20 million a year to a reliever, so hopefully it works out for them.
It should be fine.
It should be fine. I mean,
hopefully.
He has,
I mean, he did just come off a .9 FIP season.
Yeah.
I can't really question the decision too much right now.
Exactly.
And I think if it doesn't work out, we'll probably look back and be like, well, yeah, I mean, it still makes sense that they'd sign him.
Right.
Like, if you went back, I'd probably do it again.
Yeah, and the Mets fans are very happy with this deal. Very happy with this deal. I'm trying to look for what they got. They still don't have Diaz. Baseball Reference still doesn't have Diaz's contract.
Fangraphs probably does.
Put in.
Fangraphs is usually like a day after.
Yeah, and I think they're still, even with this contract. I mean, with free agency they'll probably exceed it, but I think they're still under the luxury tax.
They are currently at 200. Well, their final 2022 payroll was $282 million. But they got DeGrom coming off the books. They had him on a big contract, although he is, he's opting out.
Nimmo,
they have opting out. He's a free agent. Edwin Diaz, they do have him in here. It's a average AAV of 18.6 million. It's actually, it's kind of evenly loaded. There is a club option for 2028, so it could be a 6-year deal.
Nice. Well, good for them.
He also Diaz also has 2 opt-outs after 2025 and 6.
Yeah, and I think this was pretty important for the Mets to make because it's not like they have an absolute stable. Like after Diaz, they have some.
The Mets are still. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The Mets are still paying Robinson Cano $24 million next year.
Oh, not great.
Man, I feel so old realizing that contract's ending next year.
Yeah,
I was in 7th grade when that was signed.
Yep.
That's crazy. This is part of me feeling old as a baseball fan is these big contracts coming to an end. Like Jacoby Ellsbury's contract is up.
Yeah.
Yu Darvish is going to be a free agent again next year.
True. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like that's even weirder because it was like I was keeping track. I was very invested in the offseason at that point.
Yeah.
The Cano one, I remember watching Intentional Talk, talk about that.
No, I remember the Yankees signed Jacoby Ellsbury, and I live in New York. I'm a Red Sox fan, and people were like, oh, we stole Jacoby. What are you going to do? I was like, all right, you guys aren't getting Robinson Cano back. Why do I care?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cano is so much better.
It's a pretty good trade there, yeah.
I'll take it.
From a Red Sox perspective.
Yeah, you guys get Jacoby Ellsbury, and Robinson Cano goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we finish last place next year.
Yep. Yeah, it turns out Daniel Nava is not going to hit 300 again. Damn.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, but I think getting Diaz was important because there's not too many elite arms beyond him in that bullpen. Seth Lugo's good, but he's good. He's not great. He's not what Devin Williams was to Josh Hader when those two were in the bullpen together. It's good to hold down that one guy that is going to deliver.
Exactly.
And I think that's why it was important for the Mets to make that move. You know, it's not like they could have. It's not like there was a closer in the making over there quite yet. It's Diaz, and it's going to continue to be Diaz.
Yeah.
And they have the budget to make to pay a reliever $20 million a year, for sure. But yeah, that should do it for the news.
Well, there's one more thing, the Astros stuff,
Oh,
right?
yeah, true.
Weird stuff. James Click will not be returning as the general manager of the Astros. They also fired, I think, one of their assistant GMs.
Yeah.
Very strange. They only offered Click a 1-year extension,
Mm-hmm.
and understandably, he did not accept.
Yep.
I mean, all he did was win a World Series. I know I'm sort of back and forth on this because when you really look up and down the Astros team that just won the World Series, it's still kind of Luno's team.
I guess.
Okay, let's go through this lineup here. Martin Maldonado, that was a guy that was acquired by Jeff Lunau. Maybe James Click since re-signed him. I don't know when his contract was up or whatever,
Right.
but let's be honest, that was a Lunau guy. Yuli Gurriel, Lunau. Jose Altuve, Lunau. Jeremy Pena, I believe, was Lunau.
Yeah.
Because he was drafted. Yeah, he was drafted in 2018. That's a Lunau guy. Alex Bregman, Lunau. Michael Brantley, Lunau. Chas McCormick, was he Lunau? He was Lunau. Kyle Tucker, also Lunau. Yordan Alvarez, Lunau. In the pitching, Justin Verlander, Lunau. Framber Valdez, Lunau. It's Christian Javier was Lunau.
Yeah. So
James Click, yes, he was the GM that won the World Series, and yes, he deserves more than a 1-year extension. But also, I feel like there is reason to question how much he, put together the current roster.
right. It's a good point, but I mean, I don't know.
He also steered them out of the scandal, which is a huge thing.
Yeah, unless they just hire Jeff Lunau again,
Which apparently is not out of question.
that would. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't care, and I think enough time has passed to where they're not going to get a crazy.
I don't know.
amount of-
I feel like the Astros shouldn't associate with him anymore. They've shown that they can win without him.
Yes.
Even if it is still his roster.
When Click was hired, do you know if he was hired within the Astros or if he was?
No,
from
he was
another
definitely hired externally. There's no way they would have hired a GM from within at that point.
team?
I mean, I don't know, but I find it hard to imagine they would have hired from elsewhere.
Where do I find? Do I go to James Click's LinkedIn?
I
don't
guess. I mean,
might
hey, it's
work.
probably active.
know. Yeah. Looking for jobs. Yeah, no, I don't, I'm just finding a regional sales manager.
Well, he found a new job. Good for him.
James Click, career, baseball. I mean, yeah, he may have come from externally, but I don't know. I feel like it's not his fault that
No.
all the Lunau guys worked and
I mean, yeah, it's not his fault that
he didn't make any stupid trades. He didn't make any stupid signings. Letting Correa go worked out. I mean, I don't know if that's his decision. It's probably more ownership.
it's definitely much more of a Jim Crane decision.
Yeah, given that he was going to be paid $35 million a year.
Yeah.
But, no matter what, either way, letting Springer and Correa go hasn't been that bad.
The only way Correa not returning would be a James Click decision if it turned out that there were no conversations between the Astros and Correa, which there definitely were. So
Yeah.
when Bryce Harper was a free agent, the Yankees never contacted him. That's probably because they were never interested. That's a Brian Cashman thing, not a Hal Steinbrenner thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, but either way, I don't know. I feel like no matter how the things are operating, no matter this might be an old school thing, but no matter how things are operating or how things are being run or who's at the helm or who's guys who's were, when you improve your team by 11 wins, you win 106 games and you go 11-2 in the playoffs. Clearly that's working.
Yeah.
And it's
not something you mess with.
It's very odd to really just dismiss him
and not only that, but it was such a safe move too. Like if they signed him to a 3-year extension, is there any Astros fan that's being like, "Oh my God, we're sticking with this guy"?
Yeah,
Probably not.
No.
Yeah, definitely not. No one's doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
And even if like let's say it doesn't work out, maybe James Click, the Astros don't have a good farm system right now. Maybe they don't develop, guys start to age, the team, gets decreases in productivity every year. Is anyone being like, yeah, I knew it, we should have fired James Click after 22? Are we taking those people seriously? We're not.
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it doesn't make, I don't know. It was weird because it was such a safe move.
Right. Yeah. No one's questioning it.
No one's questioning it, and
there hasn't been a good explanation for it yet either.
Mm-hmm.
I think you quote tweeted something. I don't know how valid it is, but
I don't either. But there was something about like the organization's moving away from an analytics based, which I find hard to believe. There's no way, right?
Yeah, no. I'm no.
Jim Crane cannot possibly care about baseball that much. Like very few owners actually care about baseball outside of like maybe Artie Moreno, and we've seen how that's worked out.
Yeah, and even
like, being a baseball owner for the most part is all about knowing business and then learning about baseball. Like they don't take baseball people and teach them business. They take business people and teach them baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Jim Crane, there's no way he could look at a way that they're operating that has been mighty successful for close to a decade now and be like, yeah, we got to switch it up in here, man.
Yeah, and the Astros have been referred to as like one of the top analytical teams for like over half a decade.
Yeah, like we were talking about like that SI cover from 2014 with George Springer. We were like, hey, this team is the future. You know why? Look at what they've got going for them.
Yeah.
And largely that was based on analytics.
Yeah, and they've had so many guys. They've had like a good amount of guys come from their front office and go on to bigger and better
Mark
things.
Elias with the Orioles.
Mark Elias and the guy under him who we've
Mike
met.
Elias, sorry. Yeah,
Mike Elias and the guy under him, his assistant. Sig Midal.
Yeah. I need to be better with his name.
Yeah.
I mean, they hired Jeremy Frank. What else do you need to know?
Right. Yeah.
As an intern.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's getting a World Series ring too. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. Pretty nice. But yeah, like so I don't know if I believe a report. I think the report was that Jim Crane said that he thought James Click was too analytically driven, which seems like an Onion article.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem right. So
it's like, oh, that's a good one.
Unless there's more to it, I'm just not going to believe it quite yet.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it would take for me to ever actually believe that, because like you never hear publicly about how. I mean, like we hear the Astros are analytically advanced, but we don't know why. We don't know what puts them above other teams, and we're not supposed to know that because, if someone from the Rays front office hears the Astros are better because they're doing this, guess what they're gonna do?
Yeah,
they're gonna do that.
Yeah,
there's pretty obvious reasons we don't know that. And we're not meant to.
Exactly. I mean, you just have to put the puzzle pieces together. It's like, Framber Valdez and Christian Javier, they weren't sought after before.
They were also signed for like $10,000
They were signed for $10,000. They were somehow able to develop them into like two postseason gods.
Yeah, one of which, like Framber is probably getting a lengthy contract at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know where it'll be. I don't know if it'll be an extension in free agency, but he'll get something.
Yeah. Like, somehow they were able to do that. They were able to develop, when you think about the younger core when they were young, Correa, Bregman, and some other guys, like even Kyle Tucker now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were able to develop guys. How are they able to do that? I don't know. I don't know how they were able to do that, but it worked. And
and you know what? We're not supposed to know.
We're not supposed to know. Who it's all speculation, as they say. But yeah, anything more?
They rebuilt Justin Verlander at age 39 to be a Cy Young contender after recovering from Tommy John surgery.
Oh yeah, not to mention, they rebranded Garrett Cole. They rebranded Charlie Morton.
Yeah,
Lance McCullers. I don't know how good he was supposed to be, but he's been.
But he also came back from Tommy John.
Yeah,
like they built up Jose Urquidy out of nowhere.
Yeah, to
be a really good pitcher for them. Luis Garcia. Even Jake Odorizzi did pretty well for them this year.
Yeah, like there's something there. We're not supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
We won't know, and good for them.
Exactly.
But whatever they had at the highest executive position of GM, apparently wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens after this. Because you can't analyze it too much. It's not like a player with statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So statistics we will get into is breaking down the awards.
Oh, are we doing that tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have the
Yeah, I can pull them up.
Do you have predictions or
I mean, I haven't really looked it over too much, but I mean, we've watched the same season over the last 6 months, so I think we can figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah. Cuz that all starts tomorrow.
So it does Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, with Rookie of the Year. And Monday is Rookie of the Year. Tuesday is Manager of the Year. Wednesday Cy Young. Thursday MVP. That's how you do it. Second week in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, second week in November. This is how it goes down. Or no, technically third week now because of the lockout. But yeah, starting out, you have AL Rookie of the Year. There's 3 good candidates going on here. 3 good finalists.
Stephen Kwan of the Guardians, Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners, Adley Rutschman of the Orioles. I think Julio is a pretty easy winner here. Although I am very intrigued in the battle for second place. I think it's going to be very close between both Kwan and Rutschman. I think they probably give it to the guy with more playing time in Kwan.
Yeah.
Especially because it's the writers and they probably love Kwan's style of play.
Yeah. Although I don't know, sometimes I get surprised by the writers. Like
That's true.
I was surprised that they put Corbin Burns as first place in the Cy Young race last
Based
year.
on a FIP, yeah.
Yeah, but they did it. Yeah, I think the first place, like, I think Julio will definitely win, but I think it's a lot closer than some people realize. Because Julio Rodriguez, he's gotten a lot of attention for good reason, but he not only is he great, but he looks great when he's being great. He's got and he's also he's like he's literally younger than us. Yeah, he's got the extreme power. He's got the extreme speed.
He's a fun guy.
Defense.
He led the Mariners to the postseason.
Runner up in the home run derby this year.
Yeah, all-star.
Yeah, all-star. Just like he was on the baseball spotlight was on him throughout from like June on, which was really good for him. But I think there's some cases to make with some other guys, so I'm just going to talk about the other nominees.
Go right ahead.
Stephen Kwan, he was the AL rookie leader in plate appearances, runs scored, and hits. Count statistics. He had 78 more plate appearances than Julio Rodriguez and 168 more than Adley Rutschman. He also had more BSR and outs above average than Julio Rodriguez, and he had 12 more defensive runs saved than Julio Rodriguez. Then you go to Adley Rutschman. He is tied for the lead among AL rookies in FWAR, and he is the leader among the nominees in BSR and the leader among AL rookies in defensive runs above average. He's a catcher, and he played the position very well, and I think catchers get really rewarded on like Fangraphs or Fangraphs specifically when you're a good defensive catcher. And then Julio Rodriguez, of course, he's the main name here. He was the leader among American League rookies in FWAR, offensive runs above average, and weighted runs created plus minimum 100 plate appearances. Given all the factors, Julio Rodriguez was very excellent offensively. I think he had a 146 weighted runs created plus, and I think if it's like a most valuable rookie of the year or like most valuable rookie thing, I think there's maybe a stronger case for Stephen Kwan because of how present he was in the Cleveland lineup. But It's kind of based on how outstanding the rookie is. Julio Rodriguez definitely played a full season. It was over 130 games played. And my pick is Julio Rodriguez, and I think Julio Rodriguez is going to win it. I think he'll get like 25 first place votes. I think Julio Rodriguez will get somewhere between like 25, 26 first place votes.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty legit. I think he'll get at least 2/3 of the vote, no doubt.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to the National League?
Yeah, National League is extremely interesting, I'll say.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I have a pretty easy winner picked out in that one too, though.
I don't think it's easy.
Really?
No.
Really? I think the writers are going to go with Strider a lot more.
Yeah. I think it's a case of like, if this is the most valuable rookie, I think it's a lot different.
That's fair.
Because it's the whole whoever made the MVP back in like
1930s.
in the 1930s or like even 1910s when like they won a car for winning MVP. Like, just make it the best player. It's just so.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't make for a good chance,
that
but it
person
makes it
has-
so much easier.
That person have no idea how detrimental of an effect that had on society 100 years later.
Yeah. Because making.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just the way that Spencer Strider showed up this year and just completely dominated on a level that only is seen by elite, like truly elite pitchers. Granted, it only was 140 innings pitched, and he started the season, on the Braves. I don't know. I find it, yes, Harris was fantastic this year all around. He was great with offense, defense, whatever. I see it Strider taking it.
So I made two cases between, Harris and Strider.
Mm-hmm.
Harris, he had I know you're not going to like this stat, but 1.7 more B WAR than Spencer Strider. Only 0.1 less F WAR. He was the leader among NL rookies in home runs, hits, offensive runs above average, weighted runs created plus, minimum 250 plate appearances. Mm-hmm. And he was second among NL rookies in BSR and stolen bases. He played about the same amount of time as Spencer Strider, and he had a 135 OPS plus compared to Strider's 152 ERA plus. But, Harris also provided elite base running and defense. He had 20 stolen bases in like 110 games. If that's a full season, maybe he's reaching 30 stolen bases. He also had, I think, 8 outs above average, and a wicked arm. Outs above average doesn't account for arm strength, but I imagine he's...
no, isn't that a thing now on Savant?
I feel it's part of the red circle, red blue circle thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that's accounted for in the outs above average statistic.
Sure.
And
it definitely isn't.
I have to imagine, and I think Harris's arm saved some runs on defense as well, and an everyday presence from like May on. But the case for Spencer Strider is a very good case as well. He led all rookies in F4.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but real quick, Harris ranked tied for 17th in the league in arm strength among 368 qualifiers.
Yeah. His
that's pretty legit.
If you saw some of the highlights on Twitter, it's pretty stellar. Like, oh my God, that didn't bounce once. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spencer Strider also has a great case. Shout out to the Braves, by the way. Spencer Strider led all rookies in FWAR, pitcher or batter. He was also among 10 MLB rookies with 100-plus innings pitched. He had the best ERA, best FIP, best ERA+, best strikeouts per 9, and best home runs per 9 as well. He had the highest strikeout rate by a rookie in baseball history, minimum 100 innings pitched, and the second lowest FIP by a rookie in the live ball era, minimum 110 innings pitched. Lowest FIP by a pitcher in the live ball era was Doc Gooden. He's known for having great success very early in his career, so, that happens. So, my pick, ultimately, is Spencer Strider, because I think just the excellence, you just haven't seen that from a guy. You just don't see that from rookies. It's crazy. He had 200 innings strikeouts in 131 and 2/3 innings pitched, as well as keeping the ball in the park at the best rate by a rookie with 100 innings pitched. Not very high exit velocities against him, not very high barrel rates against him. And I mean, Harris, I feel like a lot of years Harris is winning this, but Spencer Strider was so excellent that I have to.
I think last year Harris is winning this.
Yeah.
Over Jonathan India.
No doubt. Yeah. So my pick is Spencer Strider. My prediction, I think Spencer Strider will take it. I think he'll get I don't know. I feel less confident with the writers picking him as you do. I think he's going to get 17 or 18 first place votes, and Harris is going to get the rest.
Yeah. Sorry, Brendan Donovan.
Yeah, sorry. You were just you're there because there had to be a third finalist. I hate to say it. There's some awards that go like that. AL MVP sort of is like that.
Who even? Oh yeah, it's Jordan.
Yeah.
And I don't think he cares about not winning it.
Yeah.
I think he's happy about some other things. I know.
Wait.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think Jordan doesn't care too much about not winning it.
Yep.
He's pretty happy with what happened over the last month.
Yeah, he's fine.
AL Manager of the Year is probably the most difficult one to decipher who's going to win.
Yeah, because you can only do so many numbers with that.
Yeah, well, you can't do any numbers with that.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. There's a very great case for all three of the candidates. Terry Francona, of course, won in a division where they were not expected to win. Their offense had a lot of questions. Some even had them last in the division. Scott Service, of course, took his team to the playoffs for the first time since 2001. He brought them back from 10 games under 500. And Brandon Hyde, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
Who do you think they're going to give it to?
So I'll start off with my personal pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think to be honest, Scott Service has by far the weakest case because
which is so funny. He definitely does because they won the same number of games as last year.
Yeah. And he did bring them back, but also there's a case where it's hey, you probably shouldn't have been there anyway. And also the Mariners added a bunch over the offseason, so it kind of makes sense.
And not only that, but it means nothing if there wasn't the postseason drought. Sometimes you kind of got to take that storyline out of it.
Exactly.
When looking at this case.
Yeah, you got to be objective about it. With Terry Francona, they were kind of just middle of the road for half the year, and then they just turned it up. The AL Central was theirs to take, and they took it. They improved their record by, I think, 12 games. And then with Brandon Hyde, they were 52 and 110 last year. They earned the number one pick second time in 4 years. Second time in 4 years.
Yes.
They had been last place, or outside of 2020 they were fourth place, but they'd been consistently second to last or last. Then they go ahead, they finish 4 games above 500. They make a 31 win improvement. And my pick is Brandon Hyde.
Yeah, mine is as well.
If I were a voter, I would pick Brandon Hyde, because I think, and here's what I think will happen. I think they're going to give it to Terry Francona, because I think about it from a writer's perspective.
Wow, you think they're going to give it to Tito? I
think they're going to give it to Tito. I think about it from a writer's perspective. They have to vote on these right after the regular season ends, and I think the Guardians, they ended 24-6. The Orioles were not.
They could have made the playoffs, but they didn't.
Yeah, the Orioles, they were sneaking up, and they didn't quite finish. But I think, personally, it's important to put it into perspective.
I believe they have given it to managers who didn't make the playoffs in the past.
They have before, but I feel like they.
I think this is a special case where they can. 52 wins to a winning record.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to Brandon Hyde.
That's what I think they end up doing. They the Orioles were such a big storyline for so long this year.
Yeah.
They were the easiest last place pick ever, and they finished 4th.
Yeah.
And even then, they would have probably finished second, third in some divisions. They just happen to be in one of the best divisions, maybe the best division in baseball. If there were 3 playoff teams ahead of them.
I think it might be surprising how much how many first place votes Terry Francona
Yeah,
might get.
I would agree. It's very funny that Scott Service has the weakest case here. I don't know. I think Scott Service does get at least one first place vote, though. I will say that.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, I think they give it to Francona. Maybe that's just me being a little cynical, or maybe that's me just saying like, I have I think all my other picks are also my predictions for how it will go down. So I figured I'd have one change.
That's
but
fair. Can we just like, I mean, we can't skip it. Can we like quote unquote skip NL Manager of the Year? And when I say that, I mean just go through it in 3 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, Dave Roberts, Buck Showalter, Brian Schumaker, the 3 managers that won 100 games this year. Rob Thompson, who notably took over the Phillies and transformed them into a playoff team with one of the best records down the stretch, not included.
Yeah.
Ollie Marmol, who overcame the Brewers to win a division in his first year as a manager, not included.
Yeah. So
yeah, pretty whack.
the Rob Thompson.
I'll take. I guess I'll take. I mean, you could definitely argue Dave Roberts because, they were a 110 win team. You could argue Schumaker because he overcame a 10.5 game deficit to win the NL East. You can argue Showalter because he won 101 games in his first year with the Mets after they hadn't had a winning record the year before. I think they give it to Showalter. Because they love that first year thing.
Yeah, true. That's very true.
And he also improved the most, like the team.
Yeah.
Like the Dodgers only won 4 more games, which is so crazy.
Yeah, 5 I think. It was like
it was 106 to 110.
I think it was 111.
They did win 111. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Thompson should have been on here, even though I think part of it was a reactionary thing because the Phillies ended that season 7-13.
Even Bob Melvin, you could have argued for.
Yeah, true.
Maybe I wouldn't have put him above any of these guys, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to put Dave Roberts again. It's I'll just look at the talent of the team. I don't know if it's the manager really pulling this. I don't think it's because he's pulling
Did
the
you
strings.
see what they did in the playoffs? Obviously, it's not included in the balloting, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'll take Showalter. I think this is the lamest cast of characters they could have possibly picked.
Yeah. Thompson would have been a good finalist. Just he has a good story, and
and like this isn't even bias out of he took his team to the World Series. In retrospect, it was better. Like no, he was a good candidate regardless.
Yeah. They were 21.
Like the Phillies were a laughing stock before he took over.
Yeah, they were
like the Phillies were an unserious team.
Yes.
Like they were a human. Like literally, Keith Hernandez straight up said, "I do not want to be in the booth when the Mets play the Phillies because I don't feel like watching that team."
Yeah.
Like that was the Phillies before Rob Thompson took over.
Yeah. And he changed things and was able to get them to the playoffs after being 22 and 29. And good point by saying unserious team because they were a bit of a laughing stock. But I think he should have been like second and Showalter should be first.
I would agree.
My argument for Showalter being above him is I think during the time where during Thompson's tenure, the Mets still did better than the Phillies. So I put the Mets over, and Buck Showalter over. And I mean he dealt with some injuries with Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom and was still able to weave his way around that. I know they didn't win the division, but 101 wins.
They tied.
Is crazy.
They would have gone to a game 163 if it was literally any other year.
Yeah.
Anyway, that award sucks.
My pick is Buck Showalter, and my prediction is Buck Showalter.
Yeah.
On to the American League Cy Young.
I want to say Dylan Cease so bad, man.
I was looking for all the numbers I could try to find.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna happen. Verlander's such a good story. Age 39, coming off a Tommy John surgery, and he had the best numbers too. I'm like my Cy Young picks at the beginning of the season were Dylan Cease and Sandy Alcantara. One of those will almost certainly come to fruition. The other of which will likely be a runner-up.
Yep.
I really wanted to get both of them, but I don't think it's going to happen. I got Verlander taking this one.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alek Manoah as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have put him third, but
no, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a good season, but peripherally, it was not.
I don't even think I would have put him first on his own team, but I know the writers don't think like that.
Right.
In that extreme of a case, at least, because Kevin Gausman had like a 380 BABIP, although he
Yeah.
also did have some pretty batted ball profile.
Yeah. So yeah, Dylan Cease, I'll make his case before I get into predictions and picks. Dylan Cease, he had more innings than Justin Verlander, a similar expected ERA, better average exit velocity against, better sweet spot rate against, and better barrel rate against him. Along with that, he didn't get nearly the same help from his defense that Justin Verlander did. The White Sox were 23rd in outs above average. The Astros were second. So you have, Verlander had an elite defense behind him. Cease had a very below average defense behind him, which kind of probably changed the earned run average luck. Along with that, Dylan Cease led the American League in baseball reference WAR. And then the case for Verlander is he led the league in ERA and expected ERA among qualifiers, and he had the third best FIP among qualifiers. Along with that, even though Cease had more innings, Verlander was putting in more innings per start. He had 6.3 innings per game started compared to Cease's 5.8. So I think that factors in a little bit. Cease wasn't really able to go deep into games, which kind of takes away from his candidacy. Ultimately, my pick is Justin Verlander. If I was a voter, I'd put Justin Verlander down, and my prediction is Justin Verlander. I think he's going to get like 28 first place votes.
Mm-hmm. NL Cy Young. This one should be unanimous, honestly.
Yeah,
I think this is probably the only one that will be unanimous.
Yeah, I didn't really put.
Yeah, I mean, I
down.
think if anything, Carlos Rodon or Aaron Nola should have been a finalist.
I just don't have any notes.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it's Sandy Alcantara pretty clearly. He pitched 228 and 2/3 innings this year. That was overwhelmingly more than anybody else. He was also very dominant in doing so. A 2.28 ERA, as we mentioned, a 2.99 FIP.
Yeah,
he averaged 7 innings per start, which is unheard of in this day and age.
I mean, which
the writers will love.
A lower ERA than Fried, better peripherals than Arias, and he pitched 2 months more worth of innings than both of them.
Yeah,
which is crazy. It's the innings for me.
It's the innings. It's the run prevention. It's the stuff. It's the low walk rate, the low home run rate.
Very high ground ball rate.
The very high ground ball rate. Yeah.
Very low line drive rate. Sweet spot rate.
I will take Sandy Alcantara gladly, and I will parade my NL Cy Young pick as the eventual winner. I feel like we don't usually get those picks correct, so I'm very happy that I completely nailed that one.
Especially those ones. Cy Young
it's not even like I picked Jacob deGrom and he won. I picked a guy that was not off the grid, but definitely not a favorite.
Yeah.
I believe he will be the first Marlins Cy Young winner in franchise history.
True.
That leaves, I think it's only the Rangers and Rockies that have never had one.
Maybe.
The Rockies, I can tell you right now, the Rockies have never had a Cy Young, and they probably never will.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, they just aren't meant to have them. They have an MVP.
Yep, they do.
Shout out to Larry Walker.
They do. And Matt Holliday.
Yeah, and Matt Holliday.
Matt Holliday.
What, 2007?
Yeah, and then we go on to what's been talked about for months and months, which is the American League MVP.
Sorry, Jordan. Not you. It's Judge versus Ohtani.
It sucks that Ohtani had a better year than last year.
Yeah, I honestly think this one's going to be much more of a landslide than people think. I think Judge is getting at least 20 first place votes, probably 25 even.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of Ohtani love on the internet, but I think the voters.
Yeah, 62 home runs in the American League has only happened once.
Yep.
Because I know, keep in mind, the people that vote in the American League MVP exclusively are American League beat writers.
Yep. True.
Like, I know that there's not a whole ton of separation between leagues nowadays, but you know, yeah, like, you know, none of these writers in their current careers have seen a 62 home run season.
Yeah, and odds are they saw Judge home run in one of their at one of the games they were covering.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I have the two cases, Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Shohei Ohtani, he had
Shohei Ohtani hit and pitched, and Judge hit 62 home runs, and that's it. That's the whole case.
So with Judge, or with Shohei Ohtani, 1 second. With Shohei Ohtani, he had 1,326 batter-pitcher interactions, which has a lot of value. Judge had, I think, upper 600s plate appearances. So, I mean, Ohtani had like over 600 more batter-pitcher interactions. Also a 145 OPS plus, a 172 ERA plus, 2.40 FIP. You know, the obvious point of he takes up one roster spot as a pitcher and hitter, and he combines to be 117% above average, 45% above average with the OPS, and 72% above average with the ERA. Fantastic. And then with Aaron Judge had one more B WAR and two more F WAR than Shohei Ohtani. He had a 211 OPS plus, 16 stolen bases, 3 outs above average, 3 defensive runs saved. He had the third best arm factor among qualified outfielders. He also had 1.8 more BSR than Shohei Ohtani, 16.9 defensive runs above average than Shohei Ohtani, and 2.5 more win probability added than Shohei Ohtani. That's Shohei Ohtani's combined win probability added on both pitching and hitting. Combined. So yeah, I think there's strong cases for both. Shohei Ohtani, I would say he had a better season than last year.
Definitely in pitching.
Definitely in pitching.
Maybe not in hitting.
Not in hitting, but I feel like in the combined effort, I think he had a better overall season.
I would agree.
But that doesn't mean, that he won MVP last year and he had a better season this year. That means he gets MVP. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the competition changes. My pick is Aaron Judge.
Yeah. And the voter pick is Aaron Judge.
The voter pick, I think, is going to be Aaron Judge. My thing with that, this is an internal stat thing, but the combining of OPS plus, ERA plus, of being like, Ohtani was 117% above average combined in the with ERA plus and OPS plus. Judge was 111% above average, so Ohtani had more, but Judge had better base running. He, I know Ohtani's not going to play defense. That's fine. That doesn't take away anything from him. But we talk about how, okay, Ohtani pitches, Judge doesn't do that. Judge plays defense, Ohtani doesn't do that. So I think we do have to factor that for sure. Judge played, not only did he play defense, but he played pretty good defense, and he had his arm. People know about his arm. It prevents a lot of runs.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a factor. So if you're factoring Ohtani's pitching and saying Judge can't do that, you also have to factor in Judge's defense, and he also had better base running as well. And obviously the offense, we can talk about that all day. So yeah, my pick is Aaron Judge, and I think Aaron Judge will take MVP as he heads into free agency. NL MVP.
So this is going to be an interesting one. The finalists are Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Manny Machado.
Yeah.
My pick is not what I think the voter pick will be. Does that apply to you as well?
No, but I'm not enraged at the idea of it not being the guy who.
No, I all three of these guys have a very fair case, and I also would be happy for all three of these guys. Like they've all been very dominant players for a while that have never gotten an MVP.
True.
And all three of them I'd be happy for. My pick is Manny Machado, and the guy I think they give it to is Paul Goldschmidt.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
My pick is Paul Goldschmidt.
Okay.
Because I don't know, like It's weird. It's funny. All three of them had much better statistics than their expected statistics. So I can't even take away any of that from them because they all kind of were similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Manny Machado, it's weird. He had great outs above average, but he had like negative defensive runs saved, which was odd. So I didn't know what to think of that. And then Nolan Arenado, he had like the most amazing defense. He had like 19 defensive runs saved. He was 99th percentile outs above average. But, he had over 100 points less OPS than Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt also, I think, was the leader the leader among the nominees in win probability added, which is a good factor. He hit better with runners in scoring position than both those players. And, maybe it's just an old school take, but like, even if the WAR is a few decimal points off, you value the offensive player a little more than the defensive heavy player. Because I don't know, maybe it's just
That's fair.
It takes less brain work for me, but I don't know, it just works out that way. So my pick is Paul Goldschmidt. My prediction is Paul
I will
Goldschmidt.
not be outraged at any order of these three.
Yeah.
Or any winner.
Yeah, me neither. There's no real obvious pick for me.
No.
And yeah, shout out Freddie Freeman. I think
Shout out Freddie Freeman.
he also had a 7-win season like all three of them. And his expected statistics were better than all of them, but I don't really value
Shout out
expected.
to Francisco Lindor, who changed the narrative in the Big Apple.
Yep.
He put up a 6.8 win season. Shout out to Mookie Betts, who kept doing his thing.
JT Realmuto.
I was literally the next person I was going to say. Shout
Like-
out to him. Shout out to Trey Turner, Jeff McNeil, Dansby Swanson.
I don't know if like maybe it's a conversation for another day, but like being that much better than the rest of your position, I feel like also brings a certain amount of value.
Mm-hmm.
Like
we also just listed Francisco Lindor, unless you're counting him as a second baseman. JT Realmuto we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's actually very fair.
Yeah, like
Especially in a year where so many of the top catchers heading into the year just severely declined.
yeah.
Like the debate for number one catcher was a toss-up between Realmuto and Yasmani Grandal this year, and they had polar opposite seasons. Salvador Perez obviously was hurt for a long time. He didn't follow up his 40 home run season very well. He was hurt. He didn't hit as well.
Yeah. Will Smith was good, but
Will
he didn't
Smith
take,
was decent.
He didn't take that like step up.
Yeah. Mike Zunino got hurt pretty early and really
Yeah.
didn't perform to expectation. Like in a year where the catching market changed drastically, JT Realmuto was really the one constant.
Stepped up, and probably like, if you don't have him, obviously the Phillies aren't making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Freddie Freeman. I was looking at his Savant page. It's great. He's like a career like 42% sweet spot rate, which is
I hope
9% above
this is
average.
random, but I really hope Dalton Varsho gets some MVP votes.
That would be fun.
That would
Yeah.
be fun. Very fun.
Like a little MVP-18 on his baseball reference page.
Yeah, dude. Even if it's just like a 1/10th place vote from a Arizona writer, like
Yeah.
honestly, that'll probably happen. I don't see why not, right?
Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah.
Made history.
Yeah,
He made history.
he did.
All right. Well, anything more before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Yeah, that should do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter, @Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram, @Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram, @Above Replacement Radio. We hope to see you next time, where we will be talking. We'll definitely be talking about.
We'll be recapping all those awards.
We'll be recapping the awards, and we'll talk about some Hall of Fame, most
Yeah.
likely, because one of the biggest era committee,
The biggest, not one of.
the biggest era committee Hall of Fame vote is up and coming. So
Yes, it is.
we will see you then.
This conversation is over.